The outpost was quiet at night, too quiet for a human who was used to the noise of Earth's cities. The only sound was the slow hum of old machines and the faint whistle of wind against the metal walls. Inside his small quarters, the human engineer lay on his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. His name was Ethan, and he had been assigned to this distant station to keep broken systems alive. Day after day, he fixed pipes, patched energy leaks, and checked power lines. It was a lonely life, but he accepted it because someone had to do. It that night seemed like every other. He pulled the thin blanket over his body and closed his eyes, expecting another restless sleep. But in the middle of the night, something changed. A shadow moved near the door, soft and silent. Ethan thought at first it was his tired mind playing tricks, but then the bed shifted, the blanket lifted slightly, and he felt the weight of another body sliding in beside him. His eyes opened instantly and his breath caught. His heart pounded as his hand reached toward the lamp by his bed, but before he could turn it on, a figure pressed close against him. He froze, not out of fear alone, but because the presence felt strangely calm. A faint warmth touched his arm, and then he saw it, the outline of an alien woman. Her skin was pale silver in the dim light, almost glowing under the weak lamp's edge. Long hair, dark like the night sky, brushed against his cheek as she moved closer. She looked nothing like the humans he had worked with, but her face was shaped with sharp beauty, her eyes large and bright even in the dark. She smiled, not shyly, not nervously, but with boldness, as if she had decided this was her place. Without saying a single word, she wrapped her arms tightly around him, holding him as though they had always belonged in the same bed. Ethan's mind raced. Was this a dream? Was he still half asleep, imagining things from long days of work and loneliness? He wanted to push her away, to demand answers, but something in her bold smile stopped him. It was not the smile of an enemy, nor of a stranger making a mistake. It was the smile of someone who had made a choice, one that could not be undone. "Who are you?" Ethan whispered finally, his voice unsteady. The woman said nothing. She only closed her eyes and rested her forehead against his chest. Ethan felt her breathing, steady but heavy, like someone who had been running for a long time and had finally found a safe place. His muscles stayed tense, but his fear began to shift into confusion. She was not here to harm him. If she had wanted to, she could have done it the moment she entered. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the sound of her breathing and his racing heartbeat. He thought about calling security, but the idea felt wrong. Something about her, desperate closeness, told him she was hiding from someone or something far worse than himself. Finally, unable to stop his curiosity, Ethan reached for the lamp and turned it on. The dim light filled the small room. He saw her clearly now. Her skin had faint lines, markings like soft patterns across her arms and neck, glowing faintly like living tattoos. Her clothes were torn in places, showing she had traveled far, maybe through rough conditions. Her hair was long and tangled, but her eyes, those eyes held a fire of determination. She was not afraid of him. She smiled again, bold and unshaken, as if daring him to speak. Ethan swallowed hard. "You can't just slip into someone's bed, do you understand me?" She tilted her head slightly, still silent, but her smile deepened and she hugged him even tighter. Ethan sighed, running a hand over his face. He could not understand why she was here, why she had chosen him of all people, but there was no denying one thing. She needed something from him. And for some reason, he could not bring himself to push her away. The night stretched on. Ethan lay awake while she slept, her grip never loosening. His mind was filled with questions. Was she an outlaw, a refugee, a spy? The outpost was supposed to be safe, but lately, there had been rumors of conflict on nearby systems. Maybe she was connected to that. Or maybe this was something more personal, something beyond politics and war. By the time the artificial dawn, lights began to glow outside. Ethan had not slept at all. He carefully moved, trying not to wake her, but her arms tightened like steel around him. Her strength surprised him, reminding him she was not human, no matter how human her smile seemed. At Last, her eyes opened. She looked up at him with calm certainty. For a long moment, she simply watched him, studying every detail of his face. Then finally, she spoke. "Safe," she said, her voice low and strange with an accent that bent the words. "Here. Safe." Ethan blinked. It was the first word she had spoken since appearing in his bed. He wanted to demand more, to know what she meant, but her expression silenced him again. She truly believed it. For her, his room, his presence, was safety. He let out a slow breath. "You're in danger, aren't you?" She nodded once, but said no more. Instead, she rested her head against his shoulder again, as if that answered everything. Ethan sat there, staring at the walls of his tiny room, realizing that his quiet life had just ended. Whatever this woman was running from, it was about to find him too, and yet deep down he felt something else, an odd sense of responsibility. She had chosen him for reasons he could not yet understand. Her bold smile, her fearless way of entering his life, had placed a weight on his shoulders. Whether he liked it or not, he could not let her go. As the outpost alarm signaled the start of another workday, Ethan knew his life would never return to the routine he once found dull. The woman beside him had brought mystery, danger, and perhaps something far more powerful. For now she held him tight, and he did not pull away. The outpost woke slowly with the faint chime of morning alarms. Ethan usually began his days by checking broken machines and tightening loose pipes, but that morning his mind was not on work. Instead, his eyes were fixed on the strange woman still in his quarters. She sat quietly on the edge of his bed now, no longer holding him, but still watching him with the same bold calmness she had shown the night before. She was no longer silent. Though her words were short and broken, she began to speak, testing the human language with care. "My name." She pressed a hand against her chest. "Serenia." Ethan repeated it softly. "Serenia." Her eyes lit up when he said it, and she nodded firmly. "Yes, you... Ethan." He was startled that she already knew his name. "How do you know that?" he asked carefully. She did not answer right away. Instead, she looked toward the small window in his room. The view showed the endless stretch of barren rock outside the outpost and the faint glow of alien patrol lights far in the distance. Her face grew serious. "They hunt me. I ran. No one safe. Here. Safe." Her words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavy. Ethan leaned forward, trying to understand. "Who hunts you? Why come here?" Serenia's fingers tightened on the blanket. For the first time, the bold smile she carried faded, replaced by something harder. Fear. "My people," she whispered. "I am daughter of a line, royal line. They want chain, not crown. Bond me, force." Ethan frowned. Slowly, the pieces began to fit together. She was no ordinary traveler. She was from some ruling family, but she had fled. Her people were searching for her to force her into some kind of union, one that would give power to her enemies. "You mean marriage," Ethan said softly, though he wasn't sure if the word was the right one. Her eyes narrowed as if testing the meaning, then she nodded slowly. "Yes, not marriage. Prison. I refuse." "So, hunted." Ethan sat back in his chair, letting her words sink in. He had expected loneliness on this outpost, maybe boredom, maybe endless days of repair work. He had never expected to hide an alien princess in his quarters. Serenia turned her gaze back to him, her bold smile returning as though she had decided something. "You did not push me away. You did not call guards. That is why I choose you." Ethan shook his head, trying to steady himself. "Serenia, listen, you can't just choose me. If they find out you're here, I'll be in danger too. They'll think I helped you." But her expression did not change. She leaned closer, her silver-marked skin glowing faintly under the light. "You are strong, not in body. Here." She touched lightly at her temple, then at her chest. Strong mind, strong heart, that is what I need. Ethan wanted to argue, but the truth was her words touched something inside him. He had always been ordinary, just a simple engineer. But now, someone looked at him as if he were more. The day passed in a haze. Ethan tried to go about his duties at the outpost, but his mind kept returning to Serenia. He had left her in his quarters, warning her not to leave, but worry gnawed at him. What if someone noticed her? What if the patrols outside were searching here already? By evening he returned quickly, closing the door behind him. Serenia was still there, sitting cross-legged on the bed, studying one of his old repair tools, with curiosity. She looked up as he entered and gave him that bold smile again. "They search," she said simply, her voice low. "I feel them." Ethan's heart skipped. "You mean outside?" She nodded. "Ships. Soldiers. Close." As if to confirm her words, the outpost sirens echoed faintly through the walls. Patrol ships had landed nearby. Ethan froze, panic rising in his chest. If they came inside, if they searched his quarters, everything would be over. Serenia stood quickly, her hand brushing his arm to steady him. "You are not alone," she said firmly. "We hide together." Her certainty gave him strength. Ethan took a deep breath and moved to the small control panel on his wall. His knowledge of the outpost's systems was greater than most. He rerouted the power readings, created false signals, and blurred the heat signatures from his quarters. If the soldiers scanned, they would see nothing unusual. Minutes later, heavy boots echoed in the hallway outside. Ethan tensed, holding his breath. Serenia gripped his arm tightly, her boldness unshaken. Voices spoke in a language Ethan didn't understand, then the boots moved on. They hadn't entered his room. Only when the sound faded did Ethan allow himself to breathe again. He slumped against the wall, shaking his head. That was too close. Serenia's hand pressed against his shoulder. Her smile was softer now, but still full of certainty. "You see? Strong mind. Strong heart. You protect me." Ethan almost laughed at the absurdity of it. He had spent years fixing broken pipes and cleaning dust from vents. Now he was hiding a royal fugitive and outsmarting alien soldiers. But when he looked into her eyes, he knew she believed in him completely. That night, they spoke more. She told him of her world, of endless cities of glass and light, of skies filled with banners of war, of her family torn apart by power struggles. She had refused to be used as a tool, and so they had marked her as a traitor. "I would rather die free," she whispered, "than live chained." Ethan listened silently. He understood now why she had slipped into his bed with such boldness. It wasn't just desperation. It was defiance. She had chosen her own path, and that path had led her straight to him. When the night grew late, Serenia once again moved closer, resting against him. Ethan hesitated but did not pull away. She smiled, bold as ever, and whispered a final word before sleep claimed her. Safe. Ethan stared at the ceiling, his mind heavy with fear and questions. But under it all he felt something else. Something steady. He had been chosen, whether he wanted it or not. And deep down, he knew he would not let her go. Outside, the patrol, lights swept across the barren land, searching endlessly. But inside his small quarters, the fugitive princess slept peacefully in the arms of the one human she trusted. And Ethan, though still uncertain, felt a new fire awaken inside him. The next morning came with heavy silence. Ethan sat at his small desk pretending to study repair reports, though his mind was far from work. Serenia was awake now, her sharp eyes watching the window as if expecting soldiers to burst through at any moment. The bold smile she had carried the night before was still there, but it was thinner, shadowed by tension. Outside, the sound of engines rumbled. Patrols were closer than ever. The outpost commander's voice came over the intercom, ordering everyone to remain in their quarters until further notice. That alone told Ethan how serious the situation had become. Serenia turned. To him, her silver-marked skin catching the weak light. "They close," she said softly. "I feel them." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "You mean the soldiers?" She nodded. "Hunters. They will search again. Harder this time." He leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Then we need to stay ahead of them. If they find you here, neither of us will walk free." Serenia tilted her head, studying him with calm certainty. "You hide me before. You can do again." Her faith unsettled him almost as much as the danger itself. She spoke as if his protection was a fact, not a risk. He wondered how someone, hunted across the stars, could still carry such fearless confidence. Hours passed. The patrol moved through the halls, questioning crew members. Ethan heard muffled voices outside his door, heavy boots pausing just long enough to make his chest tighten. Then the soldiers moved on, but he knew they would return. That evening, as the dim lights of the outpost flickered, Serenia finally began to tell him more. She sat across from him, her posture regal even in his small, plain room. "My family," she began, her words slow but steady, "rules a system of 7 worlds. My father was king. My brother wanted power, but not by honor. So he planned. He promised me to enemy house. If I bonded, their armies join. My people fall." Her voice hardened. "I refused. So they call me traitor. They hunt me to break, me to force bond." Ethan sat silently, absorbing every word. It sounded like something out of the stories he had read as a child: royalty, betrayal, and political games. But here it was, sitting across from him in human-sized quarters. "You're saying," Ethan spoke carefully, "that if they take you, it won't just destroy you. It could destroy entire worlds." Serenia nodded once. "Yes. My freedom means war for them. But for me, it means life." For the first time since meeting her, Ethan saw the fire behind her bold smile flicker. She looked down at her hands, fingers curling tightly. "I had no one. No safe place. Then I saw you. Not fear. Not greed. Just..." She searched for the word. "Steady. Strong." Her eyes rose to meet his. "That is why I chose you." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that he was no protector, just an engineer with grease on his hands. But deep down he couldn't bring himself to say it. Because the truth was, he had already begun to feel the weight of her trust, and it pulled him forward rather than down. Before he could answer, the outpost's intercom crackled again. A cold, commanding alien voice echoed through the halls, translated into human tongue. "Attention. We search for the fugitive princess of the Kareth line. She is here. Any who hide her will be punished. Surrender her, and your lives will be spared." Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked at Serenia. She did not flinch. Instead, she stood tall, her chin raised. The bold smile returned. Not playful this time, but defiant. "They will not find me," she said firmly. The next hours tested Ethan's nerves more than anything before. Soldiers entered quarters nearby, dragging out workers for questioning. Heavy boots stomped, doors slammed. When they stopped at his door, Ethan forced himself to remain calm. He opened it slowly. 2 tall alien soldiers stood there, their armor gleaming under the dim lights. Their eyes narrowed at him. "Human," one of them barked. "We search your quarters." Ethan's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "Go ahead. Nothing here but broken tools and bad coffee." The soldiers pushed past him, scanning the small room with devices. Serenia was hidden. Ethan had rigged a false wall panel behind his supply rack, masking her presence with heat shields. He had crafted from spare machine parts. It was a desperate trick, but it worked. The scanners showed nothing unusual. The soldiers grunted and turned back to him. "You see anything? Hear anything?" Ethan shook his head, meeting their gaze. "Only rumors. I fix pipes, that's all I do." They stared at him for a long moment, their suspicion heavy. Finally, they left. The door slid shut, and Ethan's knees nearly gave out. He exhaled shakily, pressing a hand against the wall. Moments later, Serenia slipped out from her hiding place, her smile fierce. "You lie well," she said approvingly. "Very strong." Ethan almost laughed, though it came out more like a sigh. "I thought my heart was going to stop." But Serenia only shook her head. "No, heart strong. That is why they fail." That night, the tension in the outpost was unbearable. Ethan knew the soldiers would keep searching, growing harsher each time. He sat beside Serenia, staring at the ceiling, the same way he had on the first night she arrived. "You can't stay here forever," he said quietly. "They'll find you sooner or later." She turned to him, her bold smile softening into something gentler. "Then we leave." "Leave?" Ethan blinked. "This is the only place I know." Serenia placed a hand on his arm. "You protect me, I protect you, together we leave. No chains, no fear." Ethan's chest tightened at her words. He realized then that his life was no longer about fixing broken machines in a lonely outpost. It was about her, the bold alien, woman who had slipped into his bed without a word and turned his world upside down. He didn't know what would come next, but as she leaned against him, smiling with that same unshaken boldness, he knew one thing for certain. He would not let her face it alone. Outside, patrol ships circled the barren land, their lights sweeping endlessly. Inside, Ethan and Serenia prepared for the next step, escape. And for the first time in his life, Ethan felt like more than just an engineer. He felt like someone who mattered, someone chosen, someone ready to fight. The night stretched longer than usual. The air inside the outpost felt heavy, as if every wall was listening. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the blinking repair logs that no longer mattered. Across from him, Serenia stood by the window, her tall form framed by the pale glow of the patrol lights outside. She had not lost her bold smile, though Ethan could see the tension hidden behind her calm expression. "They will come back," she said finally, her voice steady. "Next time they will not believe you. We must leave before they search again." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Leave? Where would we even go? This outpost is surrounded by barren rock for miles, and beyond that, soldiers, ships, scanners." He let out a tired sigh. "We wouldn't get far." Serenia turned her gaze to him, her silver-marked skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "You think only of machines, walls, and barriers, but I think of choices. I will not be chained. So we go, even if it is dangerous." Her certainty struck him harder than her words. She spoke as if there was no question, no hesitation. Ethan knew she was right. The soldiers would return, and when they did, his tricks with scanners would not be enough. He pushed back from his desk and stood. "If we're leaving, we need a plan." Serenia's bold smile widened. "That is why I chose. You make plans." Ethan shook his head with a half-smile. "Sometimes I wish you hadn't." They spent the next few hours preparing in silence. Ethan gathered spare tools, portable energy cells, and rations from storage. He modified an old scanning jammer, turning it into a small device they could carry with them. Serenia watched closely, her sharp eyes never missing a detail. "You are clever," she said softly. "Your people, you survive not with weapons, but with minds." Ethan glanced at her. "We don't always have the strength to fight head-on, so we make do with what we have." Serenia's expression softened, and for a moment she looked at him with something beyond gratitude, something almost like pride. When the station grew quiet, Ethan led her through the maintenance tunnels below. Few workers ever came down here, and the soldiers likely hadn't thought to search them yet. The tunnels smelled of oil and dust, the pipes rattling with the hum of recycled air. As they walked, Serenia stayed close to him, her presence steady. At times she brushed his arm lightly, as if reminding him she was there, as if reminding herself she was not alone. At the far end of the tunnel, Ethan opened a hatch leading to the surface. Cold air rushed in, carrying the sharp sting of the barren night. Above them, the sky was filled with unfamiliar stars, and on the horizon, patrol ships cast sweeping beams of light across the rocky land. Serenia breathed deeply, her eyes shining. "Freedom," she whispered. Ethan wasn't so sure. For now. They moved carefully across the jagged terrain, staying low among the rocks. Ethan activated the jammer, its faint hum masking their heat signatures from passing scans. Still, every time a patrol light swept near, his chest tightened. Serenia, on the other hand, did not falter. She moved with grace, her bold smile never fading. Even in danger, she carried herself like someone who had already decided her future would not be written by anyone else. At one point, Ethan stumbled on loose gravel, nearly falling. Serenia caught his arm, steadying him. "Strong mind," she reminded him softly. "Not always strong feet." Ethan let out a breathless laugh despite the fear pressing on him. "Thanks." They pressed on until the outpost lights faded behind them. Ahead lay the remains of an old shuttle yard, abandoned years ago when newer transports were brought in. Rusted hulls and broken frames jutted from the ground like bones. Ethan led Serenia inside the shadow of a half-collapsed ship. "We can hide here until patrols pass. Maybe even find something useful." Serenia touched the cold metal, her expression unreadable. "You see ruins. I see chance." Inside, Ethan began examining the remains of the shuttle. Most of it was beyond repair, but he spotted an old energy core buried beneath debris. With enough work, he could power a small craft, maybe even one that could carry them beyond the patrol perimeter. He turned to Serenia. "If we can get this running, we might have a shot." She stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. Her bold smile softened into something warm. "I trust you. Always." Her words weighed on him more than the broken machinery. For years, no one had looked at him as anything more than a simple repairman. But now, this woman, a hunted princess, a fighter, a survivor, looked at him as if he were the key to her freedom. They worked through the night. Ethan rewired circuits, patched holes, and scavenged parts from other wrecks. Serenia helped where she could, her strength lifting heavy panels and her sharp eyes spotting dangers he missed. Together, they turned ruins into hope. But dawn brought danger with it. From the horizon, the glow of patrol ships grew brighter. Soldiers were spreading out, searching the barren lands piece by piece. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "We're running out of time." Serenia stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the approaching lights. She did not flinch. "Then we finish faster." As the engines of the old shuttle hummed weakly to life, Ethan felt both fear and triumph. The machine was fragile, barely holding together, but it was their only chance. The sound of distant shouts reached them. Soldiers had spotted movement near the yard. Ethan turned to Serenia. "We have to go, now." She climbed into the shuttle with him, her smile as bold as ever. "Together," she said firmly. Engines roared weakly, dust rising as the shuttle struggled to lift off. Soldiers poured into the yard, weapons raised. Blasts of energy lit up the ground around them, but the shuttle clawed its way upward. Ethan gritted his teeth, pushing the controls. "Come on, hold together." The ship shook violently, alarms blaring. Serenia gripped his arm, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Strong mind, strong heart. You can." The shuttle finally broke free of the ground, rising into the sky. Soldiers fired after them, but their shots fell short. The barren world shrank below as the stars stretched out above. Ethan let out a shaky laugh, half relief, half disbelief. "We did it." Serenia turned to him, her bold smile brighter than ever. "No," she corrected softly. "You did it. You gave us sky." Ethan looked at her, and for the first time, he allowed himself to believe she was right. He wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was something more. But as the stars opened before them, he knew their journey was far from over. Soldiers would follow. The galaxy was wide and dangerous. Yet with Serenia beside him, smiling boldly, he felt ready for whatever came next. The old shuttle rattled as it cut through the thin atmosphere, each groan of the engine making Ethan's hands tighten on the controls. Panels flickered, wires sparked, but the ship stayed alive. Behind them, the barren outpost world grew smaller until it was nothing more than a glowing stone in the distance. Ethan dared a glance at Serenia. She was calm, seated beside him, her bold smile shining as if the chaos behind them had never existed. For a moment, her quiet confidence steadied him more than the controls beneath his hands. "We are free," she said softly, her accent bending the words. Ethan shook his head. "Not yet. They'll come after us. You heard that broadcast? They won't stop until they find you." Her eyes narrowed, silver markings across her skin glowing faintly. "Then we fight, or we run, but we do not bow." The navigation system blinked weakly, its screen cracked. Ethan leaned over it, studying the faint star maps it still displayed. The nearest habitable station was 3 jumps away, too far for their failing engines. But there was a small moon ahead orbiting a gas giant. He tapped the map. "We can hide there. Buy ourselves time." Serenia nodded. "You lead, I follow." For hours they drifted across the empty black, the silence of space broken only by the shuttle's strained engines. Ethan worked to keep systems stable, while Serenia moved through the cabin, her sharp eyes catching every flicker of light, every tremor of sound. She was restless but not afraid. Then the silence shattered. A piercing alarm filled the cabin and the scanner lit up. 3 ships were approaching fast, their signatures unmistakable. Ethan's stomach dropped. "They found us." Serenia stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Then we faced them. Together." The pursuing ships grew larger on the screen, closing in. Ethan pushed the shuttle harder, its engines screaming in protest. But the gap closed quickly. They were faster, stronger, better armed. Energy beams cut through the dark, missing by meters. The shuttle shook violently, sparks raining from the panels. Ethan cursed under his breath, gripping the controls. "We can't outrun them." Serenia's voice was calm, steady. "Then we outsmart them. You are good at that." Her faith struck him harder than the chase. He scanned the surroundings, searching desperately. The gas giant loomed ahead, its swirling storms lit with electric fire. Ethan's mind raced. If we dive into the upper layers of the atmosphere, their scanners might lose us. It's risky. The pressure could tear us apart. Serenia's bold smile returned. "Better torn apart free than chained alive." Ethan swallowed hard, then pushed the shuttle forward. The ship lurched, diving into the giant's turbulent clouds. Lightning cracked across the sky, the engines groaning under the crushing pressure. Outside, the chasing ships hesitated, their scanners blurring in the storms. 1 followed. 2 turned away. Ethan gritted his teeth. "One's still on us." The shuttle rocked violently as another blast grazed the hull. Warning alarm screamed. Ethan fought to keep the ship steady. Serenia stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder, her voice fierce. "You are not alone. You hold strong, I believe." The word steadied his hands. He spotted a narrow break in the storm, a pocket of calm air. He pushed the shuttle through it, then suddenly cut all power. The ship went dark, drifting like debris in the storm. The pursuing ship roared past, unable to detect them without active systems. Ethan held his breath until the scanner finally cleared. The enemy was gone. Only the storm remained. Slowly, he powered the shuttle back on. Serenia leaned forward, her bold smile wider than ever. "Strong mind, strong heart. You saved us." Ethan let out a shaky laugh. More like dumb luck. But Serenia shook her head. "No choice, you choose well." They emerged from the storm hours later, drifting toward the moon Ethan had spotted. Its surface was rough and cold, but dotted with caverns where they could hide the shuttle. They landed roughly, the ship skidding across the rocky ground before. Coming to a stop, Ethan slumped back in his chair, exhausted. Serenia stood, gazing out at the harsh, empty landscape. "For now, safe," she said. Ethan nodded. "For now." They set up a small shelter within the cavern, using parts of the shuttle for heat and light. As the strange moon's silence surrounded them, Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe. But he knew this wasn't the end. Serenia sat beside him, her gaze steady. "You wonder why I smile even when danger close?" Ethan glanced at her. "I've been wondering that since the night you slipped into my bed." Her bold smile appeared again. "Because fear is what they want. If I smile, I win. If I hold tight, I live." He stared at her, understanding more than he wanted to admit. She had not chosen him by accident. She had chosen him because he was steady, because he did not run. And now, sitting here with her, he realized he would not let her run alone. "You can't go back," Ethan said softly. "Even if you wanted to. They'll never stop hunting you." Serenia leaned closer, her silver eyes locked on his. "Then I make new home. Here. With you." The words froze him. For a long moment, silence filled the cavern. Then she reached out, her hand finding his, her smile bold and unshaken. "You did not push me away," she whispered. "You chose me, even when danger came. Now I choose you, not as prisoner, not as burden, but as bond, as partner." Ethan's chest tightened, his breath unsteady. He had never thought of himself as anything more than an engineer fixing broken machines. Yet here he was, chosen by someone who had run from empires, someone who could change worlds. He met her gaze, steady, for the first time. "Then we face whatever comes, together." Serenia's smile softened into something warm, but still bold. She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. Outside, the storm clouds of the gas giant swirled endlessly. But inside the cavern, there was calm. The hunted princess and the ordinary human had found each other. Not by chance, but by choice. And in that choice, both of them were free.